Okay, let's start. Should I, Faisal? Yeah?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Salam, namaste, adab, and welcome to today's event. Today, we are going to hear Professor Ziaur Rahman, a very famous professor from Aliagrh. He is the chairman of Department of Pharmacology of Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, Aliagrh Muslim University. And he is member of almost all the major scientific and medical organizations in the country. He will be formally introduced by Professor Mirza Atif Beg, who is a professor of FH Medical College, Itmadpur, Agra. And earlier he used to be as a head of Department of Pharmacology in Dehradun. And the concluding remarks will be given by a professor from Bangladesh, Professor Abu Khaldun Al Mahmood, Professor of Biochemistry, Ibn Sina Medical College, Dhaka, Bangladesh. And so welcome you all. It is a personal pleasant surprise for me because the introductory remark speaker is my own nephew, Bhanja, Mirza Atif Beg. So welcome, Atif, and welcome you all. Now over to Atif for the introductory remark. Atif.
Good evening, and good evening. What is suitable for you?
There is some problem with your voice.
Audio.
Audio, yeah, issue is there.
Still, it is problem.
Yeah, go ahead and see.
No, it's
Go
okay.
ahead.
It's okay, thank you.
It's all right. So I have given the task to introduce Dr. Ziaur Rahman. As earlier mentioned, that he is the chairman of the Department of Pharmacology, JNMC Medical College, AMU Aliagrh. And he is a prolific scholar. He is an academician. He is a physician. He is a writer. And it is very difficult to introduce him. He is working as the chairman. He has his credits, 7 books, 20 chapters, more than 200 publications in national and international journals. He chaired hundreds of the national and international conferences, CMEs, workshop. His contribution towards the medicine literature is excellent, amazing. And he is an Aliaghrian by birth. He has done his earlier education in AMU Aliagrh. Then he done his MBBS, MD from AMU Aliagrh. He does his PhD from the Australia. And his work on safety of medicine is excellent. He is one of the person who coined a term pharmacoenvironmentology, the effect of therapeutic drugs on environment. And he is the currently serving chairman of the Society of the Journal of Pharmacology and Drug Safety. And if I tell him the legend of the time, this is in our time we have seen a legend like Dr. Ziaur Rahman, and I have visited his academy, that is Ibn Sina Academy. Today's topic is influence of medieval Muslim scholar in the field of medicine. This is the topic, and I have seen his academy. He has amazing collections from all over the world, and he has literatures of Ibn Sina, Al-Razi, then Al-Nafis, the all eminent scholars of the golden era of the Muslim period, that was between the Greek or Romans era and the most modern English era. And his work, social work, you cannot imagine. Every day hundreds of students are using his reading room. He has donated his property of million rupees for that academy. And that is used by the students, that is used by the research scholars, that is used by the many interested people. And I got an opportunity to see that academy. I never seen such a rich collection of medical books with history, cultural books, literature, political, about the Gandhi, about the Nehru, about Ghalib, Allama Iqbal, medical books, the ancient medical books, medieval period medical books, the modern medical books, all those things are there. If you got a chance to visit Aligarh, you should visit that academy. And I am really impressed, not only with Dr. Rahman, his father is the pioneer, or you can see instrumental in making that academy is successful, and that is approved by, or you can say, Central of Excellence, that is given Central of Excellence by Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, and listed in the Directory of History of Medicine Collections, US Department of Health and Human Services, National Library of Medicine, NIH, USA. So, and he has hundreds of awards in his name. He is an excellent person, down to earth. Never you imagine by seeing him his works and his contribution. And if you got a chance to visit Aligarh, he is a good host also, serving good food. I enjoyed with his family. That is well-known nahari and biryani at his house. And by the words are not complete, are for introducing him. He is an amazing person, amazing scientist, amazing physician, and as amazing social worker. And today's topic of talk about the contribution of medieval Islamic historians or physician in medicine. And those are well known. We are not much aware about them, but Ibn Sina, that is in English known as Avicenna, Al-Razi, and Al-Nafis, they have done a lot of work, contributed a lot of things. And I was seeing some literature. I saw that Al-Razi given this separate identification to the pox, smallpox, and the measles. Then Al-Nafis given the idea of pulmonary circulation. And Ibn Sina or Avicenna is book canon of medicine that was taught in the medieval period, even in the recent times about the in medical schools. And there was not only the physician or scientist, there was poet, they are philosopher, they are healers, and they gave the idea of holistic medicine. Okay, medicine is not just a drug, holistic medicine, then the relation of medicine with the environment, with the food, with your lifestyle, whatever we are telling in the modern medicine, that is the idea given by our well-known these persons. With these words, I invite Dr. Professor Ziaur Rahman to start his talk, and we will enjoy. Few days back when he was talking with me, he was in Uzbekistan and he was invited there, and he shared some photographs. That was excellent. We will discuss all these things after the talk. Okay, so Dr. Ziaur Rahman, we are honored to have you here as a speaker. So you can start.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Atif Beg, for introducing me and with such a nice words. And I don't think I deserve for this, but I'm still really thankful for you that you spoke on about my work and about my association with Ibn Sina Academy. At the same time, I'm also thankful to Dr. Razi Raziuddin Sahab, Dr. Rafat Hussain, and Dr. Mirza Faisal Beg, the organizers of this Aligarh diaspora. And I'm really amazed to see that these people living in the North America and maintaining this Indian diaspora and organizing so many lectures in the field, in diverse fields. Like I've seen some of the attended some lectures also covering the history, science, the gender equality and culture, and so many topics they covered. And today, Dr. Rizadeen had asked me to speak on the influence of the medieval Muslim scholars on medicine. So let me first share my screen, and I'll see if it's there. So let me, can you, just a minute. So is it visible, my screen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay. So as you can see that I'm going to speak on the influence of the medieval Muslim scholars in the field of medicine. So I'll start with this saying that that when Prophet Muhammad came with the Surat Iqra, and he said that gave the importance of education, and the first wahi which was given to him from he came with a message from Ghar Hira about the Iqra, and this is a period when Arabs they were almost illiterate, and they were not interested in education and learning. And you can also everybody that the Arab was the area, or the Hijaz was the area which was surrounded by very powerful neighbors like the Byzantine Empire and the Sasanian empires. And you already know that Byzantine Empire was basically under the influence of Christians, and the capital of the Byzantine Empire was Constantinople, which is now in Istanbul. And the Sasanian were there in the area where Persia, which is now known as Iran, and the Sasanian Empire was under the influence of the philosopher Zoroaster, and that Zoroaster actually he gave the teachings, and they used to worship sun god, and which is the known as Ahura Mazda in the Zoroastrianism. So that was the powerful countries or the empires around the Arabs. And when Islam came and Prophet Muhammad gave importance to education, then Islam spread to, you can see, to the west to Cairo, and from the North Africa to the southern Spain also. They have reached to Spain also, and to the east through Persia, and then they also came to Asia. And thus they became the powerful seat both in the religion and learning. And then these Islamic teachings, they actually encourage everybody to have knowledge, and that indirectly or directly helped people's lives, to improve the lives of the people, especially in the improvement of the quality of life. In the both science and technology was also encouraged and welcome in that area. And then Arabic language became the language of scholarship, as Latin became the language of scholarship during the Renaissance period. Uh, the Muslim scholars and scientists, when they learned something, they started development and discoveries based on the achievements of the previous civilizations. And previous civilization, I mean Babylonian, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman. So Muslims, they started learning and they started translating the works from these civilizations. And the credit goes to Muslim scholars that they maintained the traditions of these civilizations. They started not only the translation, but also they made libraries and centers of scholarship in cities like you already know Damascus, Cairo, Alexandria, Baghdad. And Umayyad period, actually, they ruled from the Damascus in Syria. And likewise, then Abbasi Khilafat, they also ruled from Baghdad for the 500 years, and they started in 749 AD. So that is the like started. And as I so all these pictures which I am using here is basically I took from my Ibn Sina Academy. So you can see that the oldest civilization, Mesopotamia and Egyptian, this is a painting where somebody has made this painting, and you can see goddess of Seth, Horus, and Thoth. And still we are using some of the information which were developed during the Egyptian civilization. And the left side, you can see that there is a tile which we brought from Delhi, and the lower picture again, you can see the oldest civilization, right side from the Babylonian and Egyptian. And then it's good to learn all these things. Then here again, this is something which we have a separate section on Greek civilization. You can see some burst on the top. We have burst of Pluto, his student Aristotle, who is famous as the father of biology. The student of Aristotle was Theophrastus, the father of botany. Then you can see some burst of Hercules and the charioteer during the Greek civilization. And then you can see the burst of Hippocrates and burst of Artemis, who is known as the goddess of fertility and goddess of bravery. Artemis' twin brother was Apollo, so we have also a burst of Apollo and his son Asclepius, who is the father of physician. And in the lower side, left side, you can see some during the dark ages, it was the seal of some physicians. And then you can see that we have some oath of Hippocrates from this marble, made up of marble, and the right side of Hippocrates oath is of the bronze. And some place you can also see which we brought from Kos. Actually, Hippocrates belongs to Kos city of the Greece, so that we brought from Kos city. Then I came to the if you after the Greek civilization, Roman ruled, and this is very commonly known as Roman civilization. And the most prominent physician during the Roman civilization was Galen. And Galen's actually he tried to understand the anatomy of the human being, and his medicine was basically based on the theories of Hippocrates, like four humors, which you mostly know that four humors were the black bile, the yellow bile, the sanguine blood, and flame. So black bile, yellow bile, blood, and flame, they were the four humor. And actually this theory was propounded by the Hippocrates, but he was the first person, Galen was the first person who actually tried to show that the imbalance of these four humors gave rise to diseases. And Galen's work was translated by, and the whole Islamic world was very much influenced by his work. So they translated his work also. Otherwise, his work, most of the works must have been lost. And there was a translator whose name was Hunayn ibn Ishaq. He was a Christian Arab scholar, and he translated most of the works of Jalinus, and he translated almost 129 works of Jalinus. And one of Hunayn's translation, basically, this is Samarul Qutubus Sittay Ashar, is a very it's a 60, it has 16 chapters uh, that were used as a syllabus in during those period. And this manuscript which we have in our academy is regarded as a masterpiece of the Gala's literary works. Why? Because the incomplete copy is available in Istanbul. We have the complete copy of this manuscript, which was scribed by Ibn al-Faraj Abdullah Ibn Tayyib. And this manuscript was scribed during the 10th century. Basically, he was the um, uh, during the period of Ibn Sina, also this Ibn Faraj. So this copy is basically the commentary of the 16 chapters which were part of the syllabus, which were adopted by the Arabs, and the work of Galen, and was translated originally by Hunayn ibn Ishaq. Then you can see that in our academy we have made some huge burst also, and you can see the right side is the burst of Ibn Sina, and the back side is the Hippocrates, and Charak and Sushruta, and the Charak and Sushruta, the father of Indian surgery, father of Indian medicine, and the Galen, the father of modern medicine. So Arabs basically adopted these philosophers and scientists, and you know that the area which was at the crossroads between Asia, Africa, and Europe. And Arabs, they started trading widely, and tried to visit these places towards the China, and they also came to India, and also went to the southern Europe. And this trade led to the culture exchange and spread of knowledge, because they were actually keen to know what other civilization were doing, and so they learned from these trading, and the practical problems actually also arising because they used to visit long distances, and that's why they need to have techniques for navigation by the stars. And they also learned some astronomy also, because these techniques, this helped them to for traveling, for making geographical maps, also in the medical knowledge, and especially for namaz purpose, they wanted to know the direction of the qibla. So they used to measure and calculate, and likewise they also worked on agriculture. So these are the something. So I basically see that the golden age of the Islamic world, which I usually say first Renaissance, is basically 750 to 1050 AD. And the second Renaissance, I used to say from mid 15th to the early 18th century. After the 11th century till the 14th century, it's basically there were many reasons of not having so much development from the Arab world or the Islamic scholars, but they did something on in these fields like astronomy, chemistry, the chemistry, mathematics, technology, pharmacy, medicine, and surgery. And this science and technology in the medieval Islam, they basically started the papers, because to share the knowledge, they has to be something for writing. So they learned paper making from Chinese paper makers, and after learning the paper making techniques, they built mills in Baghdad, and likewise they learned to print books also, and to write books as a manuscript. And especially during the period of Harun al-Rashid, he made Baitul Hikmah in Baghdad, and there were many shops and libraries which he built at Baitul Hikmah, and many wealthy patrons and the Amirs, they also promoted this industry of paper making and printing, and they also bought some expensive book, because these manuscripts were written with some precious stones, and just for the collection and for private family libraries, they used to collect all these things. Mm, I was telling that the medical practices which were there during the period of when they started learning, it was the theory of humors, and the treatment was based on the bloodletting, which was basically in Arabic it is fasad. So to remove fasad, or the black or the bad excretion from the body, they used to let blood, and physicians, they used the letting from vein, and also use leeches to draw the blood. And at that time, the materia medica, or the sources of the drugs, were mainly animals and plants, and they also aware about this trepanation, especially in the psychiatric patient. They used to make a hole in the patient's skull, and then how this is how the foundation of the Islamic medicine occurred, when they learned astronomy, chemistry, and this paved the way for the development of medicine, and medical theories which they not only originated but also developed from the ideas of the Greek civilization and Egyptian civilization, and they mixed all these knowledge from the herbs, alchemia, and materia medica, and they were aware that the human body was made up of four humors, as and they also tried to correlate these four humors, and these four humors were under the influence of four elements, which were fire, water, earth, and air, and they gave rise that the diseases are supposed to be because of the imbalance in humors, and Hippocrates just gave an idea of theory of humor, but they were the Arabs who basically also gave a concept of temperament or mizaj with all these with all these humors. And medical schools and hospitals were established in the medieval Islam, and they started teaching in these hospitals. And these hospitals later on became the model for the Western hospitals also. And this is also very important that in most of the religion, the dissection was not allowed. So, but these scholars, they were aware that without the dissection, without doing the dissection, anatomy is difficult to learn. So they used to do all these activities in a very not openly, but there are some references that in Iraq there was a dissection hall, and they used to dissect cadavers, and from the cadavers they learned the anatomy, and they also found some animal anatomy which were quite parallel to the human anatomy, and they were in the impression that a treatment should be started with the medicine, and surgery should be a last resort. That was at that time it was, as I told you, cauterization was also very famous. Even Prophet Muhammad, when once physician was trying to do cauterization, he asked, "Is there any alternative to the cauterization?" So, so the cauterization was the last resort for them. As I said, there were many physicians who worked, especially during the first Renaissance, and it's a long list, and it's next to impossible to cover all the contribution of all these scientists. But I will try to cover these important scientists. Haris bin Kalda, Ibn Ishaq, Al-Biruni, Ibn Khaldun, and Rabban al-Tabari, Razi. So we'll see only the few important contribution of these scientists. Then, if we start from the during the Prophet's era, there were three physicians: Haris bin Kalda, Sabit bin Qurra, Nazar bin Haris, and one Sahabi asked Prophet Muhammad for any physician. He gave a reference to Haris bin Kalda because Haris bin Kalda basically came from Jundishapur. At that time, Jagdishpur was the center of learning, and again, when I went to Jagdishpur, I was asked to cover a topic where the emperor invited one Ayurvedic scholar, and that Ayurvedic scholar, he treated some physician, some prince very successfully, and that Ayurvedic physician stayed there. And then Ibn Ishaq was also a very prominent historian, and he was known as Sahib Sira, and he also collected some traditions, basically the biography of Prophet Muhammad, especially what he did for the medicine. Then, based on these works, Al-Biruni and Ibn Khaldun, like Al-Biruni was a historian. He also came to India with Mahmud Ghaznavi, and he wrote Tarikh al-Hind, where he mentioned so many medicines also, which were prevalent in India. Another important book of Al-Biruni is, although he was a traveler, but he also wrote a very important book on pharmacy, which is Kitabul Saidla fi Tib. And this is also known as Kitabul Saidna. So Saidla and Saidna is both are the same thing. And another historian was Ibn Khaldun, who wrote the Muqaddimah, and again, he also mentioned so many things in his books. Then, if you see the contribution of Rabban al-Tabari, he was during the period of 9th century from 810 to 850, and he wrote a very comprehensive book, Firdaus al-Hikmah, which is also known as Paradise of Wisdom. Firdaus al-Hikmah again was lost, and it was discovered by one of the Indian scholar. I still remember, I have that copy. Muhammad Zubair Siddiqui was a person who actually assembled all the editions of Rabban work, and he also mentioned that most of the manuscripts are lost, and so he just had the surviving manuscripts and compiled this Firdaus al-Hikmah, and it was published from Germany also. Another important book of Rabban was Hilsus Sehat, which is basically on the proper care of health. And again, he wrote this book from the traditions of Greece and Indian physician. And third kitab is Kitabul Fit Hijama, which is basically cupping, and Kitab Fi Tartibul Aghziya, which is basically for the preparation of foods. And so in Unani, the importance of food, which is the ilaj with the food. So that is the part of this. So Razi is another important a physician. He flourished during the period of 865 to 925, and again he wrote many books, but I am just giving you the list of only the medical books which he wrote. So one important book was Kitab al-Mansuri, which was translated into liver almatosis, and it has basically 10 volumes and based on the Greek medicine. So in Kitab al-Mansuri, he has also a chapter on surgery, and it's a general book on therapy. And this Kitab al-Mansuri also became the part of syllabus, as I said, the Jalinos book. And another Kitab was his Kitab al-Havi, which was also translated into Latin, Continence Liber. And this Kitab al-Havi has 23 volumes. And it is also a textbooks, and it has chapters related to gynecology, obstetrics, ophthalmic, and surgery also. Then another book he published is Kitab al-Judri wal Hasba, and the Judri means the smallpox, and which Dr. Atif was mentioning. Hasba is the measles. So he was the first person who differentiated smallpox and measles, and he wrote this book, Judari and Hasba. And this also became very famous, and many texts were reprinted till the 19th century. And that's why he's also known as father of pediatric, because he was the first person to differentiate it. And another contribution of his is when he was asked by the rulers that they wanted to build a hospital, and he was the first person that he adopted the evidence-based approach, suggesting to bring some fresh meat, and that fresh meat was hung in various places throughout the city to build the hospitals, and where the meat took the longest time to rot. So he chose that area where the meat was rotting at the last. And he also did some controlled studies. For example, at that time, bloodletting was one of the commonest way of treatment. So he had two groups of patients, and he was actually trying to look the treatment of meningitis with bloodletting. So in one group he did bloodletting, and in another group he didn't perform bloodletting. So he found that bloodletting is good for meningitis, something like this. So he was the first person to do the controlled clinical trials also. Another book which he compiled was Abdal Adviya, which is basically the substitute of drug, and he also did some pupillary reaction to light also. Then, if you come, then another scientist is Ali ibn Abbas al-Majusi, and which he is known as Ali Abbas in the Western civilization. And his important book was Kamilus Sinatut Tibia, which is the complete book of the medical art. And this book is also known as Kitabul Malaki, because this is a royal book which he basically dedicated to the Amir. So that's why it is Kitabul Maliki, or the royal book. And it was translated as Liber Regalis, which is again, Regalis means the royalty. So this book is also very systematically written, and it was like Razi al-Havi. Again, this was a sort of encyclopedia, and here also he emphasized the healthy relationship between doctors and patients, and importance of ethics, and which also gave rise to the methodology similar to the modern medical research. And he also worked on neuroscience and psychology and psychophysiology. So I'm not going into the details of these works, but these are something which he done. Then another scientist was Ali ibn Isa al-Kohol. Kohol is in Arabic is the ophthalmologist. So basically his name was Isa. So in Latin he is famous as Jesu oculist, because he was an ophthalmologist oculist. So al-Kohol, Kohol. He was in the 11th century, and he wrote a book, Tazkiratul Koholin, which is a memorandum of the oculist. And here also he quoted the works of Hunayn ibn Ishaq or Galen and earlier scholars, giving rise to the details of anatomy, especially the anatomy of the eye, along with the treatment of various ocular diseases. This is also the first book, and again, there is actually at that time he was not knowing that this walked Koyanagi Harada syndrome, which is basically the disease of the eye, and it has a bilateral manifestation and diffuse uveitis. And he also classified epiphora, which is basically the lacrimation, increase of lacrimation. At that time, pterygium was a disease which was treated by cautery, and that treatment led to epiphora. And so he suggested treatment for epiphora, and also he classified these stages of the epiphora. And in his book Tazkiratul Qaleen, he also recorded some cases of temporal arteritis. Then Ibn al-Hassam, again, this is again, you can see a picture of Ibn al-Hassam, which was basically painted by Asma Kazmi from Department of Fine Arts when we when we celebrated International Year of Light in 2015. She donated this painting to the Ibn Sina Academy. Hazen was basically a mathematician, astronomer, and physicist, and he's also known as father of modern optics. In fact, this UNO actually asked many organizations to celebrate a 1,000th anniversary of his important book Kitab al-Manazir, which was written in 1011 and 1020. And this book was also translated into Latin. And you know that Kitab al-Manazir was the first book on optics, and he gave many with diagrams. He tried to explain the diffraction, and even he was the first person to tell that it is the eye which basically have the image of a person. And his work was quoted later on by Isaac Newton and Kepler and Galileo also. And there is a crater in the moon which is after his name. So in Latin, he is known as Hazen. So there is a Hazen. And in the end, I also gave a YouTube link. Basically, it's a documentary film which we made on the basis of the collection which we have on Ibn al-Hassam. So this is a human eye which he mentioned in his Kitab al-Manazir, and you can see how well he was aware about the optic chiasma. So it's amazing that at that time he made this contribution. So Sabit ibn Qurra was another famous physician and a scholar. And in Latin, he is known as Thibet or Thibet. He was from 836 to 901. His kitab, which is Zakhira fil Ilmul Tib, Treasury of Medicine. Another kitab was Kitabul Roda fit Tib, which is the translated as the book of the Garden of Medicine. And Kitabul Kunnash, because many encyclopedias were written in order. So this Kitab al-Kunnash was not in order, it just was a collection of his experiences. Then he also wrote Kitab fil Ilm al-Ain, which is basically the science of the eye. And like Razi, he also wrote another kitab on Judri wal Hasba, on the smallpox and measles. And there is also a moon crater after his name, which is Thibet crater. So next is Farabi, and again this is a picture which you can see I brought from Norway, and this was the fourth series which Norway printed. And Vistu Duat means do you know who was Al Farabi? So it's all written in a Norwegian language. So I brought all these posters from Norway. And Al-Farabi basically in Latin is known as Al-Farabius, and he also made significant contributions to logic, mathematics, music, philosophy, psychology, and education. And his famous book on chemistry is The Necessity of the Art of Elixir. So in Unani medicine, it's also known as Ixir. So he suggested the ideas how to make elixir and the necessity and the importance of elixir. Then came to the Ibn Sina. Ibn Sina is well known in European countries as Avicenna, and he was born in 918 in a very small town in Afshana, which is in near Bukhara. But he died in 1037 in Hamadan in Iran. So his mausoleum is in Iran, Hamadan. His famous book is again, he has written more than 200 books, but most of the books are not known to this date. But his important books is Al Qanun fi Tib, which is also known as Canon of Medicine. And again, there are 4 volumes of this very comprehensive book. And in these books, he described the advances in pharmacology and clinical practices. And for the several centuries, his canon of medicine was taught in almost all the European countries. And he also regarded as a philosopher, and he contributed and like he developed and suggested some things related to the philosophy of medicine also. And he was the first person who gave an idea of holistic medicine. Like we need to have care of a person holistically. So he suggested that all the factors which lead to the diseases, so like physical factors, the psychological factors, the importance of drugs, importance of diet, this needs to be combined in treating a patient. Another book which is Al-Adwiya Al-Qalbiya, is a treatise on the drugs related to the heart. And I also translated his works from Urdu to English. And in this book, which you can see the title of my book, Pharmacology of Abyssinian Cardiac Drugs, this is a very comprehensive book where I use certain appendixes, like how much work has been done, who were the scientists who became influenced by the works of Avicenna, in which languages his Adwiya al-Qalbiya was translated, how many times it was reprinted, how many PhDs were done on his single drugs and compounded drugs. Actually, in this book, he has mentioned about 63 drugs. And these were mainly based from minerals, animals, and plants. And in this book, he also tried to correlate the philosophy, and he again like aroma, importance of aroma in treating the psychiatrical diseases. So he said that if you give good medicine for the heart, so it will also cure certain psychiatric illnesses also. So he gave this importance of rue and aroma. I try to cover it's again formulations. And another book which he wrote is Al Shifa. Basically, looks like it's a medical book, but this is not on medicine. It's basically on the philosophy, Al Shifa. Then you can see so many things which we have collected on Ibn Sina. So in the upper picture, you can see that we have collected almost all the bust, like we brought from Hamadan, sculptures, and vase, magnets, mugs, pen, the some organizations, they issued some badges. Lucknow University also celebrated 1,000th anniversary of his birthday. So left side on the top side, you can see a bust which was released from the Lucknow University. And we also have the documentary film which were made in Iran, which were made in Uzbekistan. So we brought documentary film also, and certain cassettes, and we have almost all the postal stamps which were issued on Ibn Sina, especially from Iran, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, even East Germany. When East Germany and West Germany were separated, East Germany also issued a stamp on Ibn Sina. And Ibn Sina is an authority, and many countries claim, because he was a person from the Central Asia. As I said, he was born in Uzbekistan, but he died in Iran. So you can see that at least we have 35 imaginary pictures of Ibn Sina. So you can see that one picture of Avicenna is from the Latin, and one picture of this one is from Turkish, and we have painting. This is a gold with gold ink, and this is a painting which were made of wood, and these are the certain plates, and this plate we brought from Israel. So even in Israel, but his picture are lying there in the some synagogue. So this was something from there. And so there are many other things which we collected. And the right side, you can see there are books on Ibn Sina, his translation into Persian, into Uzbek, into Russian, even in Hebrew. We also have a translation of his work in Japanese. So, and other treatises of his works are there in our collection. So it's a very good resource for a person who is interested in looking the works of Ibn Sina. And then comes to the Zahrawi, who is famous as Albucasis in Europe. He was a prominent surgeon. Even in our medical college in Aliagrh Muslim City, in the JNMC college, we have a Zahrawi painting in the surgery department. And he wrote a Kitab al-Tasrif, which was again translated into Latin and became the leading medical textbooks in most of the European countries. As a pathologist, he described certain conditions like hydrocephalus and also certain congenital diseases. And he was also pioneer in using catgut, and still catgut is used for suturing and for making stitches. And he was also the first person who made a good number of surgical instruments which are still used today. So just giving you an example that he made surgical devices for cesarean sections, for cataract surgery, for the inspection of urethra, and he also developed some instrument for removing the foreign bodies from ear, from the throat, and he also made cannula also with to treat wart, and he made a cannula with the iron tube and caustic metal, and he did some tracheotomy also, and he was also a person who did certain operations with the use of instruments like, for example, dislocated shoulder, and obstetrical operation he also did. And before the discovery of Ambroise Paré about the ligature, he was the first who showed the importance of ligature and suturing. So for this, he used gold and silver wires to ligate these things, especially the loosened teeth. And he used cauterization to make the anesthesia and to make the numbness. And he was also the first person to know the root cause of paralysis, and he was also works on discovering hemophilia, and he also was the first person to show the ectopic pregnancy, and ectopic pregnancy was at that time led to fatal affliction, and so he tried to treat the ectopic pregnancy also. And he was also a person who tried to prepare medicine by sublimation and distillation. And so his book on herbs was the Liber Servitoris. And even in cosmetics, he wrote a very beautiful book, which is Advyatu Zina, from Zina for the cosmetic surgery, for the cosmetic medicine. So Ibn Nafis is another physician from the 13th century, and Ibn Nafis, he's also known for several dissections and made certain important discoveries in the physiology and anatomy, and he was the first person who showed coronary circulation and capillary circulation, and he's also the first person to give rise to the concept of pulmonary circulation, because before the discovery of William Harvey, before his discovery about the pulmonary circulation, actually Galen was in the impression that there is a gap between right ventricle and left ventricle. And Ibn Sina made another mistake, and he said that there are holes between the right ventricle and left ventricle. It was Ibn Nafisi who said that there is no porous or the circulation between the right and left ventricle. The blood goes to the right ventricle to the lung, and from there it reaches to the systemic circulation. So that is what his discovery is. So he was against the theories of both Galen and Ibn Sina at that time, and it was very great, significant contribution. And then he wrote Al Shamil fi Tib, and he also wrote Sharh Tashri ul Qanun, which is still considered as a very important book. He wrote Sharh of Qanun of Ibn Sina. And another book was Kitab ul Mujaz fi Tib, which was a summary of medicine. Then Kitab al Mukhtar fil al Aghziya. So Aghziya is the food stuff. Then Baghiyatul Talibun wa Hujjatul Muttattabin. It is again a reference book for physicians and for the learned. Baghiya means the garden. So it's basically books of garden. And another book like Kohol, he also wrote Kitab Muhazzab fil Kohol on ophthalmology. Then Ibn Rushd, again, he's known as Averroes in the Europe, and he was a person who proposed a theory of stroke. Again, he was the first person who described not only the sign and symptoms of the Parkinson's disease, but in relation to stroke. Earlier, the concept was that a stroke is because of the obstruction of the heart and the periphery, and he was the first person who said that this obstruction of arteries from heart to brain. So basically, he was in the impression that blood is not reaching to the brain. That's why he was the first person to define stroke. And he also identified retina as a part of the eye for sensing the light. And its book Kulliyat fi Tibb, it was also translated into the Latin as collegiate and treated in for centuries, and trickle differences in temperament and medicinal. And he also wrote a commentary on Ibn Sina's poetry work. So Urjuza means poetry. So Urjuza fi Tibb. So next is Nasiruddin Tusi. Again, you can see a picture which is basically a carpet, and you can see on carpet a picture of Tusi, which was basically we brought from Iran when they organized a conference on Nasiruddin Tusi. He was a great architect, philosopher, physician, and scientist. And his book Akhlaq-e-Nasiri is basically on biological topics, and where he defended the theory of Aristotle on the hierarchy of the natural living organism, and he placed man above the animals, plants, minerals, and elements. So next is Yusuf ibn Ilyas. Again, he was a scientist of the later period, and he basically prepared a colorful anatomy textbooks, which is known as Tashri Mansuri, like Mansoor's anatomy, and Tashri Badan-e-Insan, so human anatomy. It was compiled in the 14th century. And again, you can see so many pictures. Like the left side picture, you can see the cardiovascular system as well as the GIT system, how beautifully he has defined the blood circulation. And in the lower side, you can see a picture which he tried to show that fetus is there in the uterus. So fetus is there in the uterus. Then you can see the neuronal system. Nerves are coming from the spinal cord, and the right side again the cardiovascular system, and the right side is basically the skeletal system which he prepared. This is a book which I wanted to show. Again, you can see Kitabul Hashaish is a very good book which was translated by many a times it was translated, originally written by the Roman physician Dioscorides. And you can see a painting which we have in our academy, which was painted by Ziaur. And Kitabul Hashaish, as I said many a times, it has been translated, and it's basically a book of herbs and very comprehensive materia medica. It's the first book on pharmacognosy. Pharmacognosy is all about the herbs which are used in medicine. So this Dioscorides work was being translated into Arabic and Syriac languages. Then, so we have seen that the golden age from the 7th century to the late 10th century. But after the 11th century, the rulers of the Muslim period, because it was become very large, and towards the end of the Abbasid Caliphate, it began to crumble. And there were many reasons of this also, because the loss of this empire and the loss of the golden age, because of the religious disagreement. This caused divisions among the different groups, and the Khalifa, they tried to exert more and more control among themselves, and even so they were under the influence of some advisors, and so they didn't allow the liberty of doing research, um, and promoted the science. Even Al-Ghazali, a very prominent theologian, he also wrote against Ibn Sina and Razi in his book Incoherence of the Philosophers, Tahafuzul. So this basically his philosophy damages the promotion of science, and he criticized the mixing of science and philosophy. And during his time, more work should be given to the religious beliefs, and people became more orthodox even than the science. So Islamic sciences, so they just didn't approve Islamic sciences, and they didn't try to connect with religion, and they said it is the foreign sciences. So this and at that time also there were several wars also which became the weaken the civilization. So the Crusaders, you can see this picture, Crusaders, they are besieging the Damascus, and so eventually the Islamic civilization whole became lost. Then came to the second Renaissance, as I said, from the mid of the 15th to the early 18th century. And this period was slightly earlier than the Renaissance movement in Europe. And this rise of second Renaissance started from the mid of 15th century, when Temur became the king of Uzbekistan or the Central Asia, and Sultanate period were there in India. And after Timurid and Sultanate, there were Ottomans, Safavid, and Babylonians, and Moors. So in the second Renaissance, it was the grandson of Temur, Ulugh Beg. He built not the forts, not the qila, but he built institutions, libraries, and in Samarkand and Bukhara. And these Samarkand and Bukhara became the centers of learning in all over the Central Asia. And between 1417 and 1420, he built the universities, as I said, in Registan Square. If you go to Samarkand, there was a Registan area, And imagine in Registan, he built such a beautiful building, and he invited so many scholars to come and read astronomy, mathematics, and also science. And he himself was a astronomer, and he built observatory in Samarkand. And there were many scientists who were trained in his institutions like Ali Quschi, Zadur Rumi, Jamshidul Qashi. So there were many scientists who. So you can see some pictures also from our academy. Then this is something, although they are not physicians, but telling you that Uzbek scientists were there even in the Abbasid period, like for example, Al-Farghani. So you can see again, we have two plates, and these are something which you won't find in the market. So which we brought from these areas. So these are something which are unique, and we have the memoirs. So Al-Farghani was known as Al-Freganus, and his work was revived by Ptolemies, and even Columbus used Al-Farghani's calculation for his voyages to America. So it's important to know for Dr. Razi Razuddin sir and all the Americans that when Columbus discovered America, he used Al-Farghani's calculations. But Columbus was confused and mistakenly interpreted the Arabic miles as the Roman miles, because Columbus was influenced with the Roman miles. So he didn't compare that there's a difference between Arabic miles and Roman miles. So he was also engineer. He was asked to have to build a dam in the rivers of Cairo. And there is a crater in the moon, Alfraganus crater, and his very important work is described by Ibn al-Nadim in his book Kitab al-Faris, where Al-Nadim mentioned that in his book Kitab al-Faris that Al-Farghani was also responsible for the use and function of sundials. Okay, so Al-Kharizmi, again, he belongs to Khwarizm, and his name was Musa, and so all persons who belong to Khwarizm, so they are all Al-Kharizmi. So he was again from 780 to 850, and as I said, we have series of works from Norway, and so this is Al-Farabi work from the Norway. So he was a mathematics, astronomer, geographer, and he was also made the head of the Baitul Hikmah in Baghdad, and there is a crater after his name, and there should not be confusion with Zakhira Khwarizm Shahi, which was basically a work of Ismail Jurjani and dedicated to the Shah of Khwarizm. Then, as I said, after the Second Renaissance, there was Gunpowder Empire, and when the Timur and Sultan period was lost, so a Britisher actually gave this name Gunpowder Empires, like Ottoman, Safavid, Babur. They all basically used firearms, cannon, and small arms in their imperial expansion. So this is also called as gunpowder empires. So they flourished during the 14th century till the early 18th century, and you already know that Mughals, they also developed science and medicine, invited many scholars from the Central Asia. They also translated many works of the Persian scholars and Arabic scholars, and their works was used in Indian subcontinent. And still you know that Unani medicine is a live example. Otherwise, the Unani medicine is dead in almost all the areas. So in India, Unani medicine is preserved because of the works which were done during the Sultanate period and the Mughal period. And in India, we have Central Council for Research in Unani medicine. We have two National Institute of Unani Medicine, around 60 Tibia colleges. They have Unani chairs, which were by the Ministry of Ayush. There are courses on Unani medicine, which are taught in abroad. And again, you can see we have galleries of the works of the influence works of the works of this famous school of thought from Lucknow and famous school of thought from Delhi, Hakim Ajmal Khan. So these are some other things which you can see from our academy. Here you can see some memoirs, replicas, and paintings and instruments of hijama, certain instruments related to posology, and these were some artifacts or made of clay mud and pictures of different physicians, and including the contemporary physicians and uh, medicine during the Ayurvedic physician and the Greek physician. So all these things are there in our academy. So last, I would like to tell you that Ibn Sina Academy is not only maintaining a museum, but also translating certain manuscripts which we have. For example, Jawami Kitabul Nafs Al-Saghir, which was basically Galen books. It was translated into Urdu with Arabic text. Risala fi Firaq al-Tib, again of Galen, Risala fil Anasir, Risala fil Mizaj, كتاب إلى أخلقان في الشفاء الأمراض رسالة في النقرس. This was of Qusta bin Luqa. Risala Nabiz is a drink which was originally written by Rufus of Ephesus. Rufus of Ephesus was a physician of the Greek period, and this was translated by Qusta bin Luqa. Tarikh al-Tashri, Qanun ibn Sina, uski Sharahin wa Mutarjamin. Risala Judia, again based on the Avicenna's prescriptions. Ilmul Amrad, again based on the Avicenna's tract on pathology. Al-Adwiya al-Qalbiya, and this was translated into English, and Anul Hayat, Bayaz-e-Wahidi. So these are the important works which Ibn Sina did. And this is something which I would like to tell. So thank you for this opportunity, and I tried to cover the significant, although this is a topic which cannot be covered in 1 hour, but still I tried to. When I went to Uzbekistan recently, I came to know that they are also working on third Renaissance. So, as I said, the Center of Islamic Civilization, they have published 137 volumes of the works of previous scientists. So this is the third Renaissance. Okay, thank you so much once again. It's a lot of time, so from my side, it's done.
Thank you. It was really quite informative. I mean, really, you need couple of hours to cover all these things. But okay, let's have a the concluding remarks as within that time space, so that we can have more question answer session. So please be more, put a summary format, and if you can finish within 6 to 7 minutes. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, and very good evening to all. Am I audible to all?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Professor Said Ziaur Rahman, he imposed a great task on me because he summarized 1000 years into 1 hour. So how can I summarize his excellent 1 hour into 5 minutes? It's a difficult task. But I think last 1 hour, where all of us, all the audience were traveled through civilization from time immemorial, development of human civilization, development of early medicine, before the birth of Christ, and immediately after the birth of Christ. Immediately after the birth of Christ, early physician Galen, whose 12-volume book is available only in the library of Said Ziaur Rahman's possession. Some library of the world possess some volumes, but not the full volume. the Book of Galen, which was first translated into Arabic by Hanun ibn Ishaq, Samaul Kutubus Sita Ashar. The Muslims, they had the opportunity in the medieval age that they were at the crossroad of different civilization. They got in touch of Indian civilization, Chinese civilization, Egyptian civilization, Greek civilization, and Roman civilization. With a broader mind, the scholars and scientists of the time, they translated and took the essence of knowledge from all sciences. They never made any taboo or any narrow mentality, that discrimination to take something from someone or not something from other one. They translated all the books and Unani medicine. This is actually essence of medicine belong to China, India, Egypt, Greece, and Roman. So that was the modern medicine since 1000 years ago. Early foundation of this was by Al-Turabi, then Al-Raji, then many other scientists. During the time of Ibn Sina, it took the position that Ibn Sina's art was, that approach was like modern medicine. He used evidence-based medicine. He also made research and also make the basis of clinical trial. Modern hospitals, the Bimaristan, was established by Muslim scholars almost 1000 years ago. And Sayyid Ziaur Rahman successfully described the first Renaissance, second Renaissance, and finally he gone to Samarkand very recently, where we are waiting and preparing for the third Renaissance. So the essence of Sayyid Ziaur Rahman's speech is that we have a golden past, but we have to search the way how to revive our golden past. And if our new generation just they feel that we are the innovator of the modern sciences, I think the third Renaissance is not so far from us. I am very optimistic. I travel in different parts of India, and especially I am very grateful to Professor Sayyid Jillur Rahman, father of Sayyid Ziaur Rahman, who invited me to be present as a guest in the year 2014, the 1000 year publication ceremony of Kanun fil Tib, and that's in the year 2015 they observed 1000 year of publication of Kitab al Manazir. Both the occasion I observed, and I am sure that if the new generation get the lesson from the previous golden past and come forward, the third Renaissance is not impossible. Everything is possible. So that is all from me. Let us proceed and let us dream for a golden future, from golden past to golden future, not bleak future. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you indeed. Yeah, we must wish for the third Renaissance, and we should work out for that. So here is an announcement for coming Saturday. After that, we enter into question answer. Again, it is from Aliagrh. It's such a coincidence. It is on literature, especially English literature. My experience as a literary translator, Professor Sami Rafiq, who is professor of English at Aliagrh Muslim University. and she will be joined by a very well-known Aliagrian scholar, Professor Shafiq Kadwai. He is going to give the concluding remark, and she will be introduced by Dr. Faiza Abbasi, who is a UGC coordinator at Aligarh Muslim University. So over to Dr. Rafat Hussain for taking the question and answer session. Rafat.
Thank you, Dr. Raziuddin. And the question and answer session is open now. And my request is that you please raise the digital hand or say in the chat, I have a question. Because there has been a confusion between comments and question in the chat box, and in a given time, it is very difficult to filter them out. So I would prefer that you simply say question, asking a question in chat box, and then you have to ask the question on your own. And so please go ahead. And the first question is from Aisha. And Aisha is asking a question about Al-Khwarizmi is the one who developed algorithm used in computer science. And algorithm is a distorted word from his name.
Yes, I think she's right. His name was Musa al-Kharizmi, and he wrote about algorithm also, which later on became the foundation for the computer science. It's true. He was the first person to work on algorithm, and algorithm word is right from his name. So basically, Kharizmi means the people who lived in Kharizm area, which is also in Uzbekistan. So all the people like Aliagrh are the people who studied in Aliagrh, and so people used to confuse with Zakhire Kharizmi Shahi, so which was written by Ismail Jurjani. Jurjani is also another area from Uzbekistan. Now it's known as Gurjan. So Jurjani wrote a book on Kharizmi Shahi. So I think Aisha is right. Musa al-Kharizmi, he wrote a book on algorithm and astronomy as well.
Thank you so much. And one more thing, those who have a difficulty in raising digital hand, they can simply say in the chat box that I do have a question. Thank you so much. And the next person is Nazir Ahmad Saab.
Thank you, Professor Ziaur Rahman Sahab, for a very illuminating discourse. My question relates to the invention of the scientific method, if invention is the right word to use in this context. There is no question that the Arabs, after the establishment of Baitul Hikmah, translated the works of both the Greeks and the Indians. The contribution of Siddhanta of Aryabhatta should have been mentioned. My question relates to the doctrinal basis of the invention of the scientific method. Isn't it correct to say that the early Arabs were influenced heavily by the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet in their approach to science? And I say that because it's commonly accepted that the Greek method, advanced as it was deductive, philosophical, whereas the Arab method was inductive. You mentioned, for instance, the Prophet ﷺ. Isn't it also true that the prophetic medicine has been used by people down to our own times as Tibb Nabawi? Indeed, I happen to have a copy of a book right in front of me here. ये उर्दू में है तिब्ब नबवी जुनूबी हिंद का क़दीम तरीक़े इलाज. And the last question, sir, is that you mentioned Al-Ghazali. Isn't it true that the dialectic of Al-Ghazali was more against the philosophers and the Fatimids than against philosophy itself? Your comments, sir.
Okay, so first you mentioned that the importance of Baitul Hikmah. So yes, it's true that in Baitul Hikmah many scholars were invited from even from the Christian countries. And if you know that Bukhtisho was a very famous physician in the Baitul Hikmah, and they were not Muslims, and they were invited, and at least 300 years they stayed in Baitul Hikmah, and this Bukhtisho family, they were the head of the Baitul Hikmah and the hospitals. Yes, you are right that prophetic medicine, which is known as Tibbe Nabawi, Prophet Muhammad himself took medicine, and when he was not he was unconscious, and he was given some oral pills, uh, uh, because when he became conscious, he was asked he asked what medicine he was given. So some sabi told him about the medicine he was given. And as I said, he was also he suggested some like, for example, khajur and nabis. Nabis is also sort of syrup, which is made up of like the elixir of khajur, and he used to take that syrup of the khajur in the morning also for his health, for his health. And then you also described about the works of Imam Ghazali. Yes, it's true that in his book he was against the philosophy of the Ibn Sina, and especially Ibn Sina and Razi, and he differentiated
Bhai
science and
is on
religion,
mute.
and he mentioned that if you read science, which is the foreign subject, and you may go to hell. So his book was good for theologian and for religious purpose, but because of his famous books, many scientists, they left the section, and especially in the Central Asian countries. So his book was sort of damaging for the science, but we cannot say like 100%, because for religion point of view, it was good for to follow the Islam. So he was like in the impression that people should pray more, should be more close to God, and science is not a part of religion. So he was in that impression.
Thank
I
you
think
thank you much, Professor Rahman. The next person is Sayyid Amir Saab, Dr. Sayyid Amir.
Thank you. I'm also very impressed with the catalog of authors and Muslim physicians which you presented. A huge list, very impressive. And a couple of things come to mind which is quite obvious. And for example, that during the golden age of Muslim science, it's not really quite accurate to say Muslim science, because the Baitul Hikmah, which was embassies established in Baghdad, was meant quite a few non-Muslims. So there are a lot of Indians and others who worked there. So it was not entirely a Muslim contribution. I think we should acknowledge it. The intriguing thing is that it went on a peak, the Muslim era, golden science, and then it came to an end. And we don't really have any simple explanation. Now, Imam Ghazali is often held that he tried to close the door of invention or the new thought, and Ibn Rushd, who tried to plead or propound the theory that there is no incompatibility between science and religion. And it seems that Imam Ghazali watered that down, and there seemed to have some bad effect of that. Now, even more, we see in the Middle Ages, there are a number of Jewish scientists, the Maimonides and in Spain, who did pioneering work, and but the tradition of invention and tradition continued among Jews, and even today we see that there is a very, very large contribution of Jewish scientists. What especially, and I would like your thought on that, is that in India, 1,000 years Muslim period, and some of it is Shah Jahan, and was considered when India was the richest country in the world. But we don't see any corresponding scientific effort in India or medicine or anything else. In fact, when the foreign travelers came to India, Bernier and Tavernier and Thomas Rowe during Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb and period, and they would assume that they knew medicine, although they were not physicians. But whenever somebody was sick among the royal family, Bernier was consulted, although he was not, and similarly Thomas Rowe. So the people in Mughal era already were aware that there is some medicine in Europe, which was more advanced, but they were never motivated to follow that and start a university, a medical school, or do something about it. Although it was very rich, India was very prosperous. So thank you.
Yes, Sayyid Ahmed sir, thank you so much for your comments. You are right that in the Muslim period, the Christians, the Jews were invited, and as I said, Bukhtashow was a Christian who almost there for 300 years in Baghdad, and you rightly said the contribution of Ibn Mamun or Maimonides. He was Jew, and he was regarded most respectful person in the history of Islamic world. Maimonides or Ibn Mamun works is there. And even in before Islam, Jundishapur, as I also mentioned that the scholars from India were invited, the Ayurved physicians were invited, and in Jundishapur, the Academy of Jundishapur, which was before Islam, and then many physicians from Jindishapur, they came to Baghdad and even to the Hijaz also. So they learned medicine not from the Muslim scientists. They learned medicine. Muslim learned medicine from the non-Muslims, experts. You are also slightly right, but not completely right in the sense that during the Mughal period, not much work was done in medicine. You know that during the Babur period, one physician was Muhammad al-Harawi. He came from Herat, from Afghanistan. Herat is Afghanistan. And Babur invited him in his kingdom. And al-Harawi and his son has many books during the period of Babur. Muhammad al-Harawi, he wrote a book, Ainul Hayat, which is the fountain of life. And you will be surprised to know that 500 years back, during that period of Babur, he was writing a book on aging or the old age. And at that time, he was mentioning that what are the factors which could help you in increasing the age. Earlier, scientists mentioned in their books that the life expectancy, if you follow everything, could be 120 years. So this Haravi, he is also writing in his book what diet should be taken. For example, he is also mentioning that living above the sea level in the mountains, so is a factor which could increase your life. So, like in even in the modern days, uh, where you live of area without free of pollution. So greenery, he was giving the importance of greenery in his book. He is giving the importance of lifestyle. He is giving the importance of exercise. So what I want to say is during the period of Babur itself, many physicians were there, and the Akbar, he used, most of the Mughal kings used to take afim. And during the Akbar period, there was a physician, the royal physician, and when Akbar used to travel, and he had sometime when he had craving for afim or opium, so that physician used to treat him with some chutney, and that chutney is basically made up of jadwar. So Jadwar is a plant-based medicine, and it's still used in Habbe Jadwar is a medicine which is commonly used in Unani medicine. So he used to give him this Jadwar for the removal of the withdrawal symptoms of the morphine. So what I want to say is during the Mughal period also, and in our library we have around 500 manuscripts on medicine, and most of the manuscripts, they are the works of the royal physician, because we are living in India. So we have the manuscripts which were written by the Mughal royal physicians. So I don't remember the exact name of the physician during the Shah Jahan period, but yes, there was a very famous physician, and he used to treat his queen, especially during the period of labor pain.
Thank you so much, Professor Rahman. The next question is from Shrikant Chopra Sahab. Any comments regarding the medical education during the medieval times? Was it apprenticeship, model, or group education?
Yes, sort of apprenticeship was there during the medieval period, especially, and this tradition started from the Academy of Jundishapur, and that was replicated in Baitul Hikmah also. And as I said, even Ulugh Beg also started building schools and madrasas. So they and many people from even from far countries like Africa and Europe, they came to learn medicine in even in Baitul Hikmah, and afterwards in the Registan of the Uzbekistan area. So traditions were there, and they were uh, doing some systematic work in compiling materia medica. In earlier days, if you go to the Egyptian civilization, they used to treat diseases through urine of animals, feces of animals, or gut, or even Ibn Sina also mentioned the importance of, like, for example, liver is good for the liver diseases. Brain is used for brain diseases. So they try to systematize the medicine, and they prepared some formularies also. So I think your question is related to the system of medical education, and they trained some tutelage in hospitals also. And if you know the contribution of Ibn Sina, Ibn Sina could not live in one place, and the students used to run, and they were interested to learn whatever he speak, and they used to write whatever he speak. So he also trained certain students also. So there is a lineage of learning from these physicians and scientists. And the
Thank you.
tradition is from the Greek civilization. As I said, the Socrates, Pluto is a student of Pluto was a student of Socrates, and Professor was a student of Pluto. So this tradition was there even in the Arab world.
Thank you, Professor Rahman. The next person is Ishrat Aziz Saab.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I listened with great fascination to the talk by Sayyid Ziaur Rahman. I had a question, but instead I have now made it a request. Could I know the name of the book, the most comprehensive book on this subject or these subjects that you have written? Because I'd like to improve my knowledge. My knowledge of the subject is based on a book called The Lost Enlightenment by Frederick Starr. And there is one more book which I don't have it with me, which was mainly about the contribution of Muslims to medical science. But if you have a book which gives all the details that you just presented, I would really appreciate it.
Sir, I would suggest you that better you go for the primary sources. So in our academy, we collected the primary sources. So why should I read the books written by some scholar from the 19th or 20th century? Why shouldn't I study directly Ibn Sina or the physicians, whatever books we have? So it's better to read the primary sources or to consult the primary sources, because European histories, they were slightly biased also in writing the or giving the credit to these Arab scholars. So most of the time, I saw that Europeans, they are not giving true credit to these Muslim scholars and Muslim scientists. So they worked really very hard and discovering things, and later on wrote similar works based on these scientists. So the purpose of creating this Ibn Sina Academy in Aligarh is to have one place where we can have the primary sources. So most of these books are not from India, because India, no, most of the books are not printed in India, because these scientists are from foreign countries, like from the Central Asia. As I said, Iran, Turkey, Uzbekistan, they are publishing the works of original works. So as I said, the Greek works were preserved by the Arabs and the Muslim scientists, and now they are available in the form of manuscripts or in the form of the printed books. So I think it's my message is to have these books from the primary sources. Okay.
Thank you so much. And next question is from Kausar Ali. What is the source of philosophy of Ibn Sina? Can we say it was Baitul Hikmah or the Holy Quran?
No, Ibn Sina was himself Hafiz. He was very learned scholar of Arabic also, and he learned almost all the books. He is writing himself that after the age of 16 years, I didn't learn anything. So whatever I learned up to the age of 16 years. So he consulted all the libraries which he had at that time, and almost he learned by heart all the books available in medicine, and he was very much influenced by Quran also. As I said, he was a Hafiz, and he also tried to correlate many things with, but he was somewhere confused. Like for example, he is discussing about Ruh, or most of the people are confused with the soul, but it was pneuma or the ear which he is describing, and he also tried to correlate with philosophy of science, and so he was also a thinker, and he used to think that the brain diseases could be cured by drugs which are given to treat minor illnesses. and he was in the impression of, as I said, holistic medicine. So he was in the impression that all the factors should be considered all together in treating a disease, not only like in modern medicine, the allopathy. Allopathy is basically responsible for treating, responsible for treating symptoms. So it's not the body as a whole. So this is his philosophy, that patients should be treated as a whole, and drugs should be given which can help in reviving, or in modern system we can say, which can boost the immune system, where you can free from the infectious disease, something like this. So he was, and at that time he was sort of he was correlating philosophy with medicine. And Al-Shifa is his most influential book on philosophy.
Thank you, Professor Rahman. And the another question is from Daniel Mirza, and it is for all of three speakers. And it's about of the practices, philosophies, or the medical remedies endorsed by the medieval physician that may or may not have been mentioned today. Is there one that stands out as particularly fascinating to you personally? So he's talking about, are you fascinated with anyone?
Okay, personally, yeah, I'm fascinated by all these scholars because they helped us in understanding the medicine at cellular level, at molecular level. Now we are discussing all these things at molecular level. So science evolved from their discoveries. So nowadays we are not talking about the action of drugs or treatment of diseases at organal level, but we are now have precision medicine, we have target-based medicine. So these came because of their knowledge, because of their discoveries. Otherwise, in this era where we are living, we wouldn't have drugs which could be targeted at certain cell. So we know all the mechanisms of diseases and mechanisms of drugs at molecular level, at cellular level. So it's amazing that, yes. So I'm impressed by their work because we can't improve ourselves without the understanding, without the reading of their works.
Okay.
Sir,
Beg Saab, do you want to add?
I want to add something, because if you read the medieval Islamic medicinal period, they give the idea of holistic medicine. They give the idea of accurate food, which food is suitable for psychosocial environment, and then for the environment also. And you will see their ideas. They have given a lot of ideas how you can treat a patient holistically, which is nowadays we are talking about holistic medicine. Actually, they have given the idea of holistic medicine. The cure, as Professor Ziaur Rahman sir has already said, that in previously they was telling that allopathic medicine is treating only the cause. They are not going for the root. Recently, our regulatory authority in India also, they are talking about the holistic medicine. They are talking about the psychosocial environment or psychological counseling or psychological support, then food and environment, all those things. That is, I am really impressed that these ideas are not newer, they are older ideas, and that is given by even the Greek and the ancient period medical scientists. Even these peoples, if you, as you have mentioned about Ibn Sina, he was Hafiz also. They are politicians, they are poets, they are philosophers, they are mathematicians, they are astronomers, they are healers. All these things nowadays we are just limiting to a single domain, that we are just become a doctor and we are thinking that our area is just this area. But we should think it holistically. We should correlate it with the environment. The beautiful example of the environmental medicine or environmental pharmacology or environmental, you can see adverse effect, as Dr. Rahman mentioned in his one book, that is Environmental Pharmacology. The death of the vultures. Death of the vultures resulted from the diclofenac sodium. It is a drug, analgesic, which is used in animals for fever. And if this drug is removed or excreted from the body, it will take almost 72 and more hours. If animal died after taking this medicine, within 72 hours, it retains inside the body. Vultures eat it and they damage their kidneys. And you see the result of vultures. Now we are making the vulture parks. We are talking about to preserve the vultures. So before thousands of years, these scientists have talked about the holistic medicine, environmental medicine, then psychological medicine, and about the nutritional medicine, which food is required, as you have already mentioned about the hill stations. In those, they have mentioned that if you go to the area where is blessed, it will increase your life.
Thank you so much. And Abdul Jabbar sir.
Thank you. It's remarkable, the presentation, historic in many sense, as far as I'm concerned. Also ended with a very, very optimistic note by the concluding remarks. So thank you for that. So I think in terms, I never visited Aliagrh, but one of my friends a few months ago, he wrote me his experience visiting this academy, Ibn Sina Academy. He was so impressed by that. So my question, a kind of question, I don't know, it could be, there is a special issue in Nature in 2006 on Islam and science. So remarkable articles in that issue on that subject. In the editorial commentary in Nature, they are talking about the prophets' invocation, acquiring knowledge, even as far as China. So I want, because you really started the whole discussion from prophet's time. That is something very unique. I've never seen that. I think that because you are trying prophet's life, his experiences to what we have now. So how did he have that? Because China is a power now. At that time, I don't know what status China was in terms of in giving knowledge to the world. So what was his thought? Why he invoked China at the time? Did he have experience in terms of, I don't think he traveled to China. He traveled to a lot of places within the Arabian Peninsula, but he must have gotten some information about what China was doing at that time. That was his insight. That is what I want to kind of ask you, what your thoughts on that.
Abdul Jabbar Sahab, I think China was the most farthest place from the Hijaz at that time. So actually, in my view, it was his importance of education, which he was trying to give to his people, to his all Sahaba, that we should learn education. See, he was the only prophet who is giving importance to education. If you see the teachings of Jesus Christ or any other prophet, So they are talking about good life, the spirituality, but he was the first person who started with the concept of learning. So he was giving the importance, and because of his teaching, the all the converted like at that time they were so much influenced by his teachings, and that's why Muslims ruled and went far away because he gave an idea that you should go up to the China. So that's why they went to the Europe, to the Central Asia, even to India. They traveled for trading purpose. So his purpose was, I think, he was aware about the Byzantine and the Sasanian period at that time, but not he was aware with the Jundisha pool because he is also suggesting one Sahabi to go and get it treated by Kalda. So because he was aware that Jundisha pool is a place where people are learning medicine. So I think for China, it's just an like imaginary.
Yeah. So the other, I think it's where we are coming up to 1 o'clock here. So in the US. So for you also very long day. So another thing I was thinking about it, I think you address it. There's a gap, there's a long gap between first Renaissance, second Renaissance. You also talked about listed the reasons for decline of knowledge acquisition, thoughts. So what was what do you think the primary reason? Because I think the Muslim Ummah, that's what I read, kind of lost track of that path, golden era path, in that I don't know, 300 years of that gap between first and second Renaissance. So what is that? What was the primary? There's a multiple factors probably. That's what you listed.
Yeah, you're right. There were multiple factors. If you know the Halakuha or the Mongols, they devastated the whole Baitul Hikmah, and they took pride in killing Muslims. And there were some Munafiq also at that time, and they also played a crucial role in destroying themselves. At one places, Mongols were attacking the Central Asia, and in Europe, it was the whole army, the Christian Crusaders. They were standing against the Muslims. So maybe they became greedy or to get the power, and they took the advantage of the weakening the Khilafat. So there are many reasons. Yes, you are right. And reason was the attacks of the foreigners, especially Mongols and the Christian Crusaders, because these were the places which were dominated by the Muslims, and these were attacked by these Halakuha. Surprisingly, God is giving the hidayah to the generation of Halakuha. Temur was the descendant of Halakuha, and he became Muslims and ruled that part of Central Asia, and even the Babur also was a descendant of this family, and they came to India and ruled India. So
So there is optimism for you, the third Renaissance. So
okay,
can you? Yeah, you can. I can.
Okay, Jabbar Sahab.
Thank you.
Not the extended discussion.
Yeah,
Because
thank you.
others are.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rafat is okay? Over?
I'm sorry. I was, how did I get muted?
Okay, so
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that concludes the question and answer session. And I'm sorry if I missed any of question, or although there were a lot of questions. And so thank you once again to Professor Rahman, Professor Beg, and of course, Professor Al Mahmood. And it is a pleasure to have wonderful speakers like you guys. So thank you once again. And I pass on to Dr. Raziuddin.
So, okay, thank you. And
Remark and questions.
yeah, just one take-home message, maybe, or maybe a question that Jabbar Saab raised. Well, you detailed a lot on individuals, technical things. The idea here is, but you must have seen all the golden era and developments and discoveries and all those. But this is also true that at one point in that same Islamic civilization, we simply, this Helaku Khan and this destruction and that destruction, that is a technical escape route that Muslims take basically. Simply put, at one point, and let's put two names also, Imam Ghazali versus Imam Tamiya. We simply stop reasoning, we simply stop thinking, and we just put ourselves in just expanding the empires and going from one to other nations. That golden period was when people were most liberal at that point. They could reason with others who were not of their kind. They assembled from all the globe, the mind and brain who were curious. So this curiosity was lost, reasoning was lost, and we are still actually, in all honesty, we are still wandering, W-A-N-D-E-R, wandering in this wonderland since almost 600-700 years. There is no justification for that. There is absolutely all the reasoning we can put, British colonization, this and that. One can say that all these Mughals and Grand Mughals, all they built was beautiful gardens and big palaces. Why there were no academies? At the same time, in Europe, there were academies. There were inventions. India was the most treasured place, resourceful place. So we have problems, really, and we should pour on that. Why we stopped producing and discovering and doing science and new thing. There is nowhere in the world, in the Muslim world, we are not really doing anything standard to any Western country. That's the absolute truth. I am here since 44 years. Jabbar Sahib is here since 44 years. We all know that, how the science in Muslim world is being conducted and done, and what is the standard of that science. Why? All the Arab lands are full of resources. They create big buildings and all those, but there's no exchange of views and ideas. There is no fresh thoughts. So this is the take-home message. We are totally out of our thought process. What to do? You can, look at your own Aliagrh. Great, grand institution. What could be better resource institution than Aliagrh? Are we really doing anything? I'm not demeaning anything. This is the reality. This is our reality, present day. So thank you all, Zasa. Wonderful talk. There is no doubt about it. Resourceful, and I will surely visit this time Ibn Sina.
Most welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Stay with us.
Yeah,
And
December.
I invite everybody, and
In
I'm seeing
December.
Hibadur Ansari Sahab, who was based in UAE. He's also attending this lecture. So he used to visit us, yes.
The best will be to invite Dr. Abdul Jabbar, who never visited.
Yeah, sure. Please, most welcome.
He's from Tamil Nadu, and he's in Emory University.
So Zia, I may be coming with Razi Bhai in December.
Yes.
So let's visit your place. Last time I didn't have a chance, or at least a time to visit.
And
Although he invited us.
Invite Manzoor Khori Sahab sitting here. He is the custodian of all Muslims in the North America. Manzoor Bhai is listening here, and he has, really, he has a lot of resources, a lot of energy. You remember the Jahangirabad Institute?
So
Lucknow.
You have to keep a lot of biryani and nihari ready for this.
all that. So Amir bhai, let's go there.
Sir, are you please, Ji?
Rajiv bhai, I'm also
celebrate.
coming with you. Rafat bhai and Rajiv bhai, I'm also coming with you to Zia
sure.
sir.
Okay, so
Ji,
let me
sir,
say
Who is
simply one
this?
thing.
Who is this?
Abdul Sattar.
Oh.
See, let me quickly say one thing, that it is the session is officially closed now. Those who want to stay, that is fine. And the speakers, if they want to, they are excused because it's already 2 hours, more than 2 hours.
Yeah, sure.
So you are welcome to stay or you are excused. Thank you so much again. And the rest of us, because there is always a chit chat session after.
If you all want to chit chat, no problem. But you know.
Okay, so let me play a devil's advocate. And I don't go with the flow, so I wanted to ask some questions. So Razi bhai.
Yes.
Or everyone.
Yes.
So when we talk about the civilization, Islamic civilizations, so mostly Chinese, Islamic civilization, as Amir bhai also pointed, that everyone was involved. And of course, Sayyid Ahmad Sahib, the Romans and everyone. Why? Because that was the only world at that time. There was no North America, there was no people here. So the most of the people were living in Southeast Asia, China, and the Islamic world. So why there is so much emphasis on the Islamic contribution? Of course, why don't we talk about Galileo? Why don't we talk about other things? So that's because we still remembering, reminiscing in civilization, because that was happened to, that was supposed to happen. That's what my question is.
No, I wish we talked about it. And first of all, as Amir bhai said, and probably Ishrat bhai also said, that we Muslims, especially, we are talking about all educated Muslims, we must stop doing this thing, Islamic science. There is nothing Islamic in science. And it was not Islamic at that time.
It was medieval, we can say.
It was a science done by Muslims and non-Muslims together, and also look into the reasoning. At that time, they were really mentally liberated to absorb, to digest from all sources, and they were not so narrow-minded. And let's also not bring Quran. Quran is not part of any scientific thing. It is our sacred book. That's with all respect and with all faith. But Quran didn't teach you science. And when the word Iqra came, that means become educated or learned enough to learn other things. You have a mental thing given to you, a mind, go to China, or maybe he could have referred it to India also. Maybe he could have referred, he just happened to say China. Remember, he used to go to Damascus, from where all people were coming in the caravan, and they were storytellers. They were telling about Rome, and they were telling about China, probably they were telling about many other places. He happened to say China, but he also dreamed about India anyway. So now you remember Iqbal's line, मेरे अरब को आई ठंडी हवा यहाँ से मेरा वतन वही. So what I'm saying, we Muslims have really stopped all that reasoning. Nothing we have discovered, nothing we are really going since many, many centuries.
But at that time, it was supposed to happen because, right?
Why Europeans are
have something very intelligent minds, other didn't have it.
Also, I think I think you all must have seen a documentary on Abdul Salam, the first Nobel Prize winner, a Muslim.
Yes.
So if you look at the story of Abdul Salam, I think, right?
Abdul Salam.
Abdul
Salam.
There is no L.
And
Yeah.
there is no need for you to correct. Just say Dr. Salam. Okay? Yeah. Let's
That's okay.
go
So I
beyond
think
that.
I watched that documentary. I think that came out about that. It came out the Science magazine.
Yes.
It's wonderfully done, and then it chronicles his life story
Yeah. Yeah.
and how finally he dies,
Yeah.
and there is a grave in Pakistan,
Yes.
and then there's a kind of whitewashed, the
Yes.
first Muslim whitewashed there. So we have a kind of internal struggle among ourselves. Looks to me. So you talk about a science, you talk a kind of inter-religious, intercultural, but here you're talking about a Muslim. Maybe he belongs to some other sect of the Islam. So he was basically dishonored at the grave. So how do you
So
deal with it?
why do we get obsessed if one Muslim out of billions get a Nobel Prize? Why do we get obsessed?
No,
But
yeah, I
he
think
is, unfortunately, Professor Salam is no longer acknowledged as a Muslim in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And this is the
So
one
even
problem
though
we
no.
have.
I mean,
is the-
let me finish my thought.
Mhm.
even though
I-
he's
You,
acknowledged,
you guys probably you have to listen to the you have to watch the documentary on Netflix.
Probably, Jabbar Sahab, many have
Jabbar
watched.
Sahab,
And about Islam and Muslims and science, many have read and written. Go to Ziauddin Sardar's book, and you also referred on nature issue. The people have learned, the Muslims have known
Yes.
all these articles also. The issue here is what we are doing. It's not that we don't read and don't know.
No.
What
I'm
we are
not saying that.
doing.
I'm not saying that. What
No,
I'm
no.
saying
My
is,
I
what
think
I'm
that what
saying
we
is
lack,
not-
deficit
kind
of
of,
free expression. I think we are no longer able to freely think and make
Yes,
opinions
that's the
and
issue.
judgments of ourselves.
That's the
Pakistan
issue.
started with as a modern country, a lot of freedom of expression and all that. And look at that, what's happening there. I mean,
Yeah.
there is a
Anyway,
very
maybe I would like
conservative.
I-
Please
I-
let me
I-
finish.
I would
There's
like
a
to
very
hear-
conservative attitude there. You cannot express in books or in
Yeah.
any other
Anyway.
form any different views or beliefs. And this is what happened to Professor Salam. He is a follower of Ahmadi sect, and that he was condemned in the Constitution of Pakistan that
Yeah.
Ahmadis are not Muslims. So since he
So-
was Ahmadi, therefore he is no longer acknowledged
right,
as a
right.
Muslim.
The question to ponder is why there are not so many among Muslims. We get obsessed with the one who gets the Nobel Prize in Muslim world, and we keep talking about it.
Because
And the
we don't-
others
we-
are
Rafat, because we are under accomplished. So one star that you see, you just
yeah.
go
So
after
that is
it.
a obsession.
That's
And this,
why we are so under accomplished. That is
that's the
issue.
question to be asked, not about if one gets it and we get so happy. And
Yes.
then we talk about
So your question should be why we are so under accomplished.
yeah, exactly. That's
That
the
is the
question I'm
question.
asking.
And that is Amir Bhai is saying because we stop reasoning and
Reasoning, thinking, we get more religious, and whatever the reason.
and we rationalize, we defend everything. Our every weakness has some defensive thing. Always we defend, this happened, that happened,
Yeah.
colonization, this and that.
I like to hear from Professor Rahman on this point. Maybe in 5 minutes. I have to leave. If he has something to say.
You are you mean you're going to
the
make
point
him
which you have
tired, more
discussed,
tired for 5 minutes?
Yeah, the point which you have discussed is now, like what Jabbar Sahab and Amir Sahab and Razi Sahab were discussing. So all points are good. These are the reasons, but I think main reason is also patronizing. So it's the responsibility of the government, it's the responsibility of the rulers. If they are not, see, the later rulers, they were not giving importance to the scholars and scientists. So scientists need liberty and a space for the research. If you're not providing him or her the area, Abdul Salam Sahab was also the same in the same way. When he was not given importance in Pakistan, he went to foreign countries and there he worked. So it's the responsibility of the government also
Yes, yes.
to give some like some what are इनाम इकराम जो दिए जाते थे उस वक्त वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है तो
He cannot,
शायद ये सारे रीजन
he
के
cannot
साथ बहुत
understand
इम्पोर्टेंट है
Urdu. Yes, sir.
पैटर्नाइजिंग
That's
जी
okay, that's fine.
He cannot understand Urdu. You have to speak English.
नहीं मैं
That's
सिर्फ ये कहना चाह था
Because
कि जो
he's
गवर्नमेंट की
asking
तरफ से
you
जो पैटर्नेज जो मिलती है ना वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है जो आपने पॉइंट डिस्कस किए उसके साथ साथ
I understand, but he was raising question. The response, if you don't say in English, he will just not understand it. So you have
Anyway,
to.
That's
the
fine.
point he made
I
is
got
that-
the points. Okay.
Okay,
thank
Yeah,
you.
the point he
let's
made is that you need government patronage.
okay. Let's end it here.
Okay,
Thank
great,
you, thank you.
great discussion.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Rafat is not hungry today, so that's why he's.
No, because I am always curious. So, and it and
Or one other scientist. Zia Saab, wonderful.
thank
Okay.
you so much, and
Atem,
hopefully,
wonderful.
hopefully
Thank you so
during
much.
Aligarh visit, I will
जी
visit.
रफत साहब जाहिर है आपसे शिकायत है आप आए अलीगढ़ और नहीं आए थे
हाँ नहीं पिछली मर्तबा तो
जी।
इतना उन्होंने जो है क्रेजी वो था
जी।
स्केड्यूल में
He's coming in June, in December, I think.
December. Okay.
I plan to. Thank you.
Plan to.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, Atif Beg Sahab. I
Thank you.
didn't know that Razi Bhai has so many learned people. Oh, of course I know that, but I didn't know you that his
Mirza,
khandan is so big
yeah.
and
Yeah, he is my nephew from both sides, father and mother both.
ये किसके बेटे हैं रजी भाई?
हमारे दोनों फर्स्ट कजिन हैं। अरे ये फैसल नहीं बैठता है दिल्ली से, फैसल बेग।
हाँ
एक ही घर है सब।
अरे आपके कौन सी बहन के भांजे बता रहे हैं ना?
जी हमारी फूफीजाद बहन के लड़के।
अच्छा फूफीजाद बहन जो माँ की
और दूसरी फूफीजाद भाई के लड़के हैं। मतलब दो साइड से ये बधा हुआ दोनों साइड से।
यार वो आपके खानदान के सब तो मुझे मालूम है, कभी कभी कोई नया निकल के आता है तो
आ जाएंगे, बहुत आते हैं।
यार how come I don't know?
I even did not know that he will be part of this when Zia Saab just gave me the list.
नहीं मैंने सरप्राइज दिया रजी साहब को कि मैंने